Very good. It's straight up 10 o'clock. We're ready to start. I'd like to welcome everybody to the virtual version of the Northwest Iowa Dairy Days. Coming into town this morning, it had more thrills than a carnival ride thanks to the snow and ice and Mother Nature's 50-mile-an-hour winds. The agenda will follow the starting times as indicated on the emails you received. You can enter questions via the chat box, or when we ask for questions, you can unmute and go ahead and ask questions directly. After our program, you will be emailed, well, all the attendees from the 5 programs will be emailed an evaluation, and we encourage everyone to participate in that evaluation. That helps us keep improving our programs. Our first presenter today, taking Dr. Larry Tranel's spot, is Jen Bentley, and she's going to talk about feed cost. And it'll be kind of a 2-part program with tools for managing crop and feed costs with Dr. Carpenter. So, as I always say, Jen, the podium is yours.
All right, let me get my slide set up here. And are you still able to see the full screen there, Fred?
Yep, perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for allowing us to do this virtually, and thanks for those that are joining on. Like Fred said, my name is Jennifer Bentley, and I'm a dairy field specialist housed in Winneshiek County out in Northeast Iowa. So appreciate Fred making this available virtually. I don't think this would have been very fun traveling over today, but always enjoy getting out to Northwest Iowa as well. But Larry had some conflicts with this date, so he asked me to present his slides, and we've been presenting this in the Northeast area the last couple of weeks. So been tuning into his Forages for Profit, won a cocktail. So I guess the next time you see him, you might want to ask him if he wants a cocktail. But here we're going to be focusing on forages, kind of just looking at what is your forage production goals, because there's a lot of ways we could look at what you want to do with your forages, and really kind of just looking at what your goals are. Is it profit per acre? Is it tons of dry matter per acre? So where we're optimizing our herd size, making sure we have enough tons of dry matter for the amount of cows that we have on our farm, particularly if we're looking at expanding, with our herd sizes, do we have enough acres to cover that? But also looking at tons of digestible dry matter. So really optimizing the amount of milk that we can get off of those acres. And then taking a look at the whole picture, tons of digestible dry matter, energy, and protein to really maximize the whole package there. So there's a couple different ways we can look at that. So the first one, looking at optimizing profit per acre. And I know this slide looks a little busy, but it just kind of focus in on the different types of forages that you can put into this. This is a spreadsheet that Larry has put together. It's called Crop Trans. And so it's allows you to put in the number of acres that you have for different types of forages here. So here we see the incomes and expenses of looking at the different forages here. And so looking at alfalfa, high quality pasture, corn for grain, corn silage, and then including some alternatives like rye, sorghum sudan, or a cocktail mix. So, looking at net return per acre, just looking at profit, we see that corn silage gives us a negative value. And so when we look at that, we do use 10 times the price of the bushel of corn. But as Gail is going to talk a little bit later, in looking at that feed val program and the nutrients that are provided in that corn silage through energy and starch, it actually might make it your most valuable crop, and typically in many and most of your years. So just depending on how you're looking at these forages, looking at that profit there. This is another spreadsheet that Larry has put together. Seems that Larry has a spreadsheet for everything these days. This is the dairy calculator, and it's used to figure how many cows can be fed from a certain land base, along with any forages that you might purchase and supplements added. So here, in the blue fonts, these are values that you can put in for your herd. So you can put in your annual milk per cow, the estimated body weight, average heifer weight. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner is that crop production, dry matter produced. So again, you can put in your acres and the average dry matter yield you're going to get from those. So it gives you a good idea of the number of dairy cows or heifers that can be supported by the number of acres that you have based on what your average dry matter is for those different forages. And we realize that cows and herds have big differences in feed efficiency. And if you look up at like feed waste rate and the herd cull rate, those are quite variable between herds. So those are things that you can change within this to make it more relative to the farm herd size that you're working with. Again, another tool that we use, and this is a program actually from Vermont. This is more looking at grass-fed herds, but really trying to optimize the digestibility in relation to the dry matter produced and the cows that it can feed. And so in the bottom right, you'll notice the tons needed per year of the forage quality. So depending on the forage quality, we use A, B, and C. That's up in the top right. That'll give you the ability to see how many pounds or how many tons of dry matter are needed based on those inputs there. And so again, kind of looking at, do I have enough forages, looking at this. And then this scenario, this is kind of looking at, again, a grass-fed herd, where we see that the higher quality type of forages in this scenario are actually insufficient, but it looks like they have some sufficient lower quality. So if we're really trying to get some of that higher quality, this might be something that we want to look at. Do we have to sell some of that lower quality and buy back what we truly need? We look at optimizing digestible dry matter. Some of those cool season grasses or forages can really be managed and really extends that ability to be digestible. So it's important to match the right forage to the soil, to the climate, and the harvest system. Those grasses and small grain forages have the potential to provide digestible NDF across the board. And if you see here in this chart, that blue line really gives us the most extension, the most digestibility throughout. And we see some of those alfalfas, particularly maybe in our pasture or grass-fed diets, may not be their most favorite, just making it difficult to find those higher digestibilities. So again, that same program as previously, where we're looking at here, we're particularly looking at that forage quality D, where it's that really lower quality. And so trying to manage those pastures and harvestable hay and haylage and baleage to provide year-round supply of forages. And again, so that grass legume species can really help to broaden the window of harvest time while still assuring some good quality there. This is a slide taken from the University of Wisconsin Extension, really looking at, when do we get the most highest quality, and really want to focus on those first two harvests of the year, as most of the research has shown that first and second cutting have the highest potential for producing the most digestible forage and having the highest level of energy. Due to some optimal conditions for that cool season grass and legume growth during that early part of the year. And so that first harvest really sets the timing for the rest of the season. Ideally, those first two cuttings will be made early on, and we kind of see that in that second and third cutting there, there's little to no difference in the quality in those second to third cuttings. This is a slide borrowed from Dan Olson with Forage Innovations, just kind of looking at what we consider a normal crop rotation. If we look at what we have traditionally done in the industry, we see that we put in 4 years of corn and then we move back to our alfalfa rotation. But we kind of see a yield drag in that corn. If we just keep it in corn and then we go into alfalfa, we get that bump in that second, third year, but we get a little bit of a drag there. Where we see the benefit of some of these alternative forages or cocktail mixes is we don't see quite the yield drag when we incorporate these. So if you look at this extended chart here, that first year corn, we see that high yield. But then if we incorporate some triticale, some cocktail mix, we see that we're not getting that yield drag in that second year corn. If we extend that out to the third and fourth year, we're still seeing some benefit of that additional forages being implemented in there. This is just one example. This is using Larry's family farm, Trano Family Farms, looking at before and after incorporating the cocktail mix. So they run an organic dairy herd, but this can definitely apply to our conventional herds as well. In this particular scenario, they were seeing a lot of winter kill and insect issues on their alfalfa. So putting a lot of cost and reduced quality and yield to their production. So that's why they made the decision to go to a cocktail route. And we have seen this in other areas. I know there's quite a few farms in our Northeast Iowa area that have been doing this really well and have seen some great additions, great tonnage additions. If we look at this over 5 years, in this example, they're seeing an increase of about 12 tons per acre over the course of 5 years. So we're really seeing some value to the tonnage as well as the digestibility of the forages that they're growing. So kind of looking at that 4-year rotation, our traditional, we're seeing about a 2,100 pound digestible fiber per acre per year versus this 4-year corn and triticale cocktail mix, we're seeing right around 4,000 pounds of digestible fiber per acre. So giving us about a ton advantage per year per acre by using this type of system. So just showing, what goes into a cocktail mix. There's different varieties out there. I think Larry had a producer call in and say he's using a 19 type mix. And so there's just a lot of different ways that you can put these cocktail mixes in. But this is kind of one that we've seen with the BMR sorghum Sudan, Italian ryegrass, red clover, bernstein clover, and our crimson clover. Triticale is also a favorite with fall seeding, particularly if that corn silage comes out soon enough, we can get this planted in the fall. And again, kind of going back to that testimonial of why these crop rotations have evolved in this particular herd, just the ability to grow lots of high quality forages, high amounts of digestible fiber. They just really weren't satisfied with the rations of the corn silage and alfalfa. They just wanted more flexibility. So and particularly the weed control for this organic herd, although we can see this in the conventional mindset as well, as just that weed pressure. So the ability to kind of be flexible with some of these cocktail mixes can reap some good benefits. So they're seeing increased yields and grow high quality feed. It can create a manure application window, reduce insect pressure, like I said, build soil health, reduce tillage, reduce fertilizer expense, and increase their phosphorus uptake. And of course, working in a dairy world, trying to keep our ration costs down, right? So anytime that we can produce high quality feed and get some good production and help reduce our ration costs, that's going to be a benefit to the overall operation. Some of the small grains that they utilize are winter wheat, triticale, winter rye, Italian grass, oats, and that sorghum sudan. And these really, we have to match these to the correct groups depending on the quality. Of course, we know that we want our highest quality going to our lactating cows. And so being able to harvest those in the right stage, this might be a way of supplementing or implementing um, these products and replacing some of that corn silage or haylage. Typically, we see these being substituted for haylage, and that allows us to maybe feed a little less corn silage. If we get into some later stages, we might be able to feed it to our heifers and our dry cows. So, working closely with your nutritionist to make sure that depending on when these get harvested and the type of quality that comes back, that we're implementing them in the right stages of that dairy cow's life. Just some examples of that winter spring triticale, some pros and cons and ways that we can use them. The pros of using a winter spring triticale is high quality potential, good yield potential. Maybe some cons of using it is that winter triticale yield heavily depends on fall tillering. So depending on when we can get back out into the fields, it's a good use in rotation. So going to fall seeding, if the corn silage gets harvested off in time and you're able to get back in the field and seed it, and then also being able to use it as a spring seed as a nurse crop for that alfalfa seeding. The use of sorghum or sorghum sudan grass, there are some pros, the high yield potential, high quality potential. It works great as a weed suppression, but some cons, they really like dry and hot summers, and that quality can really escape rapidly. You may find that one day it's not growing, and the next day you've kind of, depending on the weather. It's a good use in rotation to break up the need for corn on corn, and it's a cover crop that can be seeded in the fall and before fall seeded alfalfa. So again, ways that we can implement it, particularly again, just going back to Larry's family farm here on that 700 cow organic grazing dairy. It's a good way that they can incorporate into their diet and be able to use it in the pasture, but also have some harvested feeds as well. The use of forage oats, pros of using this, it's mostly an early season forage growth. It's easily established any time of year and it's quick growing. Some of its limitations are its limited yield potential and may not be as winter hardy, but it can be used in rotation as a nurse crop. And particularly for using it out in pasture, if you have some overrun areas out in pasture, this can be something that can be implemented as growing quickly and get those patches kind of cleaned up. As far as harvesting it, it's simplest for them to cut, merge, and chop. They typically cut about 3 inches. It can easily be baled and wrapped. Again, that quality versus quantity depends on weather and when we can get out into the field and harvest that based on the maturity. So again, going to end with a kind of a busier slide here. This is the full spreadsheet of that crop trans, but you can see all the inputs that go into really looking at what the investment is in making different types of forages, whether it be your alfalfa, your high quality pasture, your corn for grain, your corn silages, or that cocktail mix there, and realize that that cocktail mix can be quite variable depending on what you're using, the types of mixes that you're putting into it, and the benefits can vary greatly from farm to farm. So that's why it's important to kind of consider all the inputs that go into it based on your farming operation and what you're using for expenses on your own farm. So take these numbers with a grain of salt, but I know that Larry would be available to work with you on the spreadsheet if you're ever interested in using it on your own farm, just to kind of evaluate where you are with your income or your net profit per acre if you want to utilize it that way.